certain things that people fear. One of the things that people fear is the disease, structure, sickness, and the things that remind us of our own mortality. The bodies that we occupy, they are really miracles of bioengineering. But at the same time, the bodies that we have can break down. The bodies that we have are subject to elements that go on in the world around us. There was a season recently where a number of different people in our community were all dealing with a similar sickness. And, there were people with stomach problems, there were people with flu, there were people with various other things. But there was a point where we were all kind of a little sick. And, it was kind of like, oh, I had it on Tuesday, Wednesday. And someone else goes, oh, I had it on the weekend. And back and forth. And that's the sort of thing that happens in a season that really tests your immune system, like winter in the Northeast United States. But in addition to this, sometimes there are other things that happen that are more serious. It can be cancer, it can be a stroke, can end up being a fall, can end up being a concussive injury to someone's brain or head. It can be a variety of things that we have been kind of taking care of for a period of time, but all of a sudden we get notice that it's going much more badly and that things are getting worse. And these are things that remind us of our spiritual need of God. These are things that remind us that we don't have control over everything. These are things that people go through and they go, I need a power that is greater than what I bring to the table. And in terms of this, when you come across this on a certain level, it's a disaster for you personally. And sometimes you can shake it off in a day or two, and you count yourself very, very fortunate. Sometimes it's protracted, and it goes longer. And sometimes the very worst thing happens, and it doesn't happen to you at all, but it happens to someone to whom you have given your heart, and someone you're very close to, and someone whom you would do anything to see them not suffer. But this is part of the process of living life in our era and in our time. And part of the process that deepens and develops our heart is watching other people go through difficulty, particularly people whom we love. Part of the process is going through loss, where someone whom we have loved passes away and we will not have a relationship with them ever again in this life and in this circumstance. Part of what goes on is we are a people who will be unable to do everything that we want to be able to do simply because we are being slowed down, we are having difficulty, and we are having to fight for health, we are having to fight for life, we are having to fight for moving forward. It was interesting when Yeshua came and dwelt in the first century in Israel, many people understood that the compassion of God was such that they could bring their problems, their sickness, their disease, their difficulty to Yeshua. And as they did this, Yeshua showed compassion, mercy, and kindness as a man, but he also gave us a window into how much God cares for us in the midst of our suffering. And so the invitation is there's a relationship before you, and sometimes the beginning of the relationship that people have with God comes from injury, comes from sickness, and comes from watching people that we care about suffer. And going, God, I am here because of suffering. I need you because of suffering. I understand sickness. I understand limitation. I understand disease. I understand how I need you to break into things now. If that is your invitation into the start of a relationship with God, He does not treat you with contempt. He does not get an attitude. He does not say, well, you should have come looking for me before you had a problem. This is not the heart of God. God knows our frailty. He knows our disease. He knows the speed at which the life we live moves past us. He knows about time, and He wants the relationship. And so if you've got to come before God because you're suffering right now, or someone else close to you is suffering, or you need an intervention or a miracle, people came to Yeshua for all of these things, and He received them all. And God is still in the business of receiving people who need Him to intervene on their behalf. Shalom.